SUV
There
on.
was an open space with a ball field. So I remember coaching Caitlin's team and working on the field. And that was bought by a property owner that faces, it's a ferry road.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Big lot. Kind of makes sense. I mean, if you want to follow the kind of progressive.
My son-in-law's working with them on trying to do a trailhead there going up through Reedham. For mountain biking and outdoor adventure education.
We'll get started here just a minute or so, as soon as Commissioner Black gets settled.
I'm not going to settle. I'm good.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dean Vallone, the president of the Lower Island Township Board of Commissioners. I'm calling this regular meeting of February 28th, 2022 of the Lower Island Township Board of Commissioners to order. Proof of publication is available of this meeting. We convene this meeting tonight with heavy hearts as we mourn the passing of our beloved Commissioner Carolyn Holtzman. We begin our meetings with a prayer and pledge of allegiance, and we'll do a moment of silence in honor of Commissioner Holtzman's passing. We pray this day to give thanks for all the many blessings bestowed upon our township. Watch over us who are entrusted with the administration of this township. Create in us the earnest desire to serve faithfully and permit us to experience the joys of noble service completed for our residents. Encourage cooperation from those who are served and from those who serve. Help us to use every willing service and every effort put forth for good government. Heavenly Father, we ask your guidance to help us as commissioners to make the right decisions. We ask that you aid our staff as they perform the daily tasks of running our township. And we request that you be by our first responders as they protect our residents and see that they return home safe at the end of each day. In your name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Once again, thank you for joining us here both in person and for those who are watching the live stream this evening. Again, we are here with heavy hearts this evening as Commissioner Holtzman unfortunately has passed away, and we mourn that passing. We have several presentations this evening, and then we'll be going into an executive session early in this meeting tonight after those presentations. Commissioners, in our packets this week, we received our minutes from the February 14th, 2022 regular meeting. And if there are no changes, questions, or any comments on the minutes, I'd be seeking a motion to approve the minutes from February 14th, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Kutz, a second from Commissioner Black. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Next this evening, our first presentation of the evening is Miss Michelle Moyer of Meddard's House. Is Miss Moyer here this evening?
I don't believe she's here yet.
Okay. Well, we'll come back to that if she does come into the meeting. Our next presentation this evening is from Don Paul Shearer and Janice Links from the West Shore Historical Society. And if you folks want to both come up or individually to the podium, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I'm Don Paul Shearer. I'm president of the West Shore Historical Society. I'll just be brief. 2 months ago, we presented a presentation to Fairview Township with our cooperation with them with the Sheepford Road Bridge, or hopefully the saving of the Sheepford Road Bridge. And we were unanimously approved, and they joined West Shore Historical Society as a member. And last week, I presented a presentation to the Silver Spring Township supervisors, and they also unanimously approved. So we are now uniquely representing 6 municipalities, and we're not done. It was my goal 4 years ago when we entered the Lower Island Shopping Center to become the West Shore Historical Society and go to where there were no historical societies, because the blending together, and I serve in the trustees of the Cumberland County Historical Society, we're trying to get one big family to promote the history throughout the county, and particularly bringing everything to the West Shore, where it's been primarily in the western end of the county. The only other thing I will mention before I let Janice bring you up to date on things that are going on, we recognize that Lisbon alone has enough history to keep us busy. So we're hoping to get one of our members, our directors, to really specialize in on Lisbon because there's just so much history there. So we want to report that to you as well. With that, I'll let Janice bring you up to date on other events. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Very sorry to hear about Commissioner Holtzman. We have been busy as a society in the last few months, especially. The big news is we were awarded a PHMC grant. It's Historical and Archival Records Care Grant in the amount of just under $5,000. And this is going to help us bring our archives to where they should be in terms of inventorying them, properly storing them, and digitalizing them so that everybody will have better access to them. I'm not sure if any of you have been to our office, but we do have quite a bit of information about Lower Island Township there. Including, of course, the Sheepford Road Bridge plaque from Cumberland County Register of Historic Places and the William Foshag Preservation Award that we received, along with various photos, newspaper articles, etc. And recently, we received a donation from the family of Paul Schelleheimer. I'm not sure if that's a familiar name to you guys, but Paul played in the West Shore Twilight League and led Lisbon to the championship in 1953. So he was the pitcher, and there were quite a bit of local newspaper stories about him at the time. And through his family, he's donated his 1953 championship uniform, signed baseballs, and his mitt, and we now have that on display in our office. So thought you might be interested in that little tidbit. As far as the Sheepford Road Bridge, we are waiting to hear about the PennDOT TASA funding. We expect an announcement to be made in the spring. That's a pretty wide margin of time, but along with our application, of course, a letter went from Scott Perry. And after the application was sent in, Senator Regan sent in a letter of support, and Representative DeLosier spearheaded the entire delegation, Cumberland County delegation, to sign on for a letter of support. So we really did all we could on our end to try to make sure we get that money. One thing that we've been working on that I thought you guys might be interested is, and you may have gotten emails about, is Round and About with the West Shore Historical Society. And that's an event that our big opening reception is this coming Friday at the Art Center School in Mechanicsburg, Art Center School and Galleries in Mechanicsburg. And that was a collaboration of the West Shore Historical Society, the West Shore Photography Club, and the Art Center getting together. I think some of you might know Joe Farrell. He lives down near, right off of Thompson there, and he's the vice president of the Photography Club. And him and I met one morning on our walk and hatched this idea, and it turned into quite a project. We have visited as a group the Bayshore Farm in Hampton Township, the Peace Church. The Friends of Peace Church actually opened up the church for us to go inside. And in Lower Allen, we visited the Sheepford Road Bridge and also the Rebecca Bittner House, which is right on the corner of Lisbon and Slate Hill. And the pictures that are submitted from those trips are going to be exhibited through the month of March at the Art Center. And it was kind of our effort to point out to people that there's a lot of history right in their backyards. So we supplied the Photography Club with a list of historical properties, and they were actually the properties that the townships themselves had submitted to the county as being historical, as a starting place. So individually and then as a group, we visited these various sites, and now we get to see. I haven't even seen the pictures yet, but on Friday night, we'll be there from 6 to 7:30 at the Art Center. I hope some of you will join us. And along with that, there are also going to be 3 presentations during the month of March at the Art Gallery. West Shore Historical Society goes on March 9th, and we'll be doing a little tour of the photos and talking about the history of each place. So besides that, we're pleased to announce that on May 22nd, the West Shore Historical Society is going to be toasted by Historic Harrisburg on the Pride of the Susquehanna. So we'll be sending out information about that for anyone who's interested. And I know Don Paul spoke about Silver Spring and Fairview. We're pretty excited about that. And I have 2 thoughts for the township to maybe consider. One of them is at Yellow Breeches Park, there is a bulletin board, a kiosk, I don't know what you want to call it. But if you would like, we maintain the kiosk in Wormleysburg. We would be happy to make sure that the one side of it has all of the fishing and park information that you wanted up there, and we could take the other side and put information about the bridge or the society. So something to consider. And also, some of the townships are occasionally giving us room in their newsletter. So maybe that's something that you could consider for us in the future. So that's what we have to say, and thank you for your time. Sorry it's on such a sad evening. Thank you. Questions?
Well, thank you very much for all the work you're doing. I know that much like many volunteer type things, it can become thankless, but this is amazing. The Lisbon, you're correct. There's so much history in Lisbon. I took an interest the first couple of years we started moved in the age of some of the stones at the cemetery over there. It's incredible. To take a walk through there. And I had at one point the Cumberland County Historical Society folks over there with me, and they were talking with the folks from Lisbon. The conversations kind of fizzled out after COVID, I think, and stuff like that. But that might be something to renew kind of the conversation, because some of those stones just go back so far. And I know like that history along there is mentioned, I think, in the Lower Allen Township history book that's published. So, but thank you both for all the work that you do.
Thank you.
Yep. And thanks for being here tonight. Next, we have a presentation from the Cumberland County District Attorney Drug Task Force. Will you be handling this? Okay. Yep.
Well, actually,
Both? Yep. Feel free to come up to the
if you
podium.
have a tough question. Thanks. It's good to see you guys again
Yep, you
outside
too.
of Zoom. I remember from all last year.
great.
I'll be short and sweet. We have a new district attorney, Sean McCormick, who's with me today. It was Skip up until here just a few weeks ago. I will tell you that with Sean, I stand pretty happy that his commitment is at the level and beyond where we need to be. To the extent Dan Tarvin joins us, and that's unique because we're one of the district attorney's offices that we have a full-time DA assigned to us. So Dan has that, we have that, his phone 24/7 that cuts down on our work time limits, and it streamlines our cases as we go through. And most importantly, we're finally getting a fix and a handle on the asset forfeiture program. I know I stood here for the last several years and told you that we were working on that backlog. I'm going to say that again. And the reason being is obviously COVID had a strong impact on us, and with what the court's availability was and our service of asset forfeiture petitions out to the people as a part of the judicial process was delayed because we weren't able to go face-to-face or into the prisons or to people's houses for that year and a half that we lived. But we are moving forward with great results. So I passed out to each and every one just a basic overview, and I won't go over our mission or our core activities. We stand committed to drug investigations, and we stand committed to the municipalities in Cumberland County to assist them in any way possible beyond the purchase of drugs. And if you look at the overview, and when I say that specifically, on page 3, 421 retail/theft/burglaries. That's significant. If you remember several years when we were discussing the need for the drug task force and the full-time participation, I represented, and I'll represent again today, that the drug work, you have to look beyond, I can't quantitate it, what we're doing to quell those type of property crimes and those in-person crimes that the departments, especially the 3 municipal departments that participate right now, see. Now, your chief of police or your administration within your department may be able to give you better numbers on that, but those are the numbers of the totals within the 3 municipalities. And you can see it's rather high. I mean, we're still fighting that, even through the COVID end, where people weren't out and about and in the stores like they were. The thefts now of the cars and stuff has increased. We opened up 54 cases since January 1st. And when I say we opened up 54, that's not the total number of cases. Those are cases that 4 officers assigned to the drug task force on a full-time basis, which includes me, specifically went out and handled ourselves. That does not include our assists to the municipalities within Cumberland County or even within Lower Allen. There are 31 arrests, 545 hours of surveillance, which is an incredible amount of time. And probably the most telling is our unit personally investigated 20 overdose deaths. We see a rise, if you look at page 3, in fentanyl and our heroin, specifically fentanyl becoming as deadly as it is. We started to see a total of, and this is just with the task force, 78 overdose. When I call general, I don't mean to take away from the overdose. What I mean is it didn't result in death, but we were still responsible within the 3 municipalities that are full-time. So I'm not talking county-wide. Within Lower Allen, Mechanicsburg, and East Pennsboro, 78 overdose, 20 of those resulted in death, where our unit supplemented the municipal department's investigation and or took it over. And they're very, very time-consuming. I mean, that eats up hours and hours and days and taking us away from our normal buys and search warrants. And then highlight again, if you look on page 3, there was a total of 17 grams of fentanyl. It was either purchased or seized. I would submit to you that's significant, because when you talk about a granule of fentanyl has the power to kill a human being, when you talk about 17 grams, you can see that the gates are wide open around our county, allowing these substances to come in and resulting in the family wreck that we're seeing every day. 140 grams of methamphetamine, that's unusual. We have had a huge spike in methamphetamine over the last 2 years. I can't explain to you why, other than the fact that the methamphetamine that we're seeing now coming in and is being tested by our labs is not being homegrown. It's coming across the border or coming from another country into the United States, and it's making its way in the streets in Cumberland County. Years ago, I would have told you we were making mom and pop labs, and you can tell the difference. That's not the case now. It's coming in with very, very high purity and very clean methamphetamine, not homegrown. 91 grams of heroin, 76 ounces of cocaine, 8 pounds of marijuana, 9 weapons seized. That's a little misleading. When I took over the task force and we reorganized here in the last year looking at our rules and regulations, I made a determination that as a task force, we were only taking those weapons that we legally could take in effect that we were filing criminal charges on. Anything else would go to the individual departments. But if we were filing a specific specific drug offense where we were going to articulate that a drug enhancement was on there, we would seize that. That number 9 is reflected. 23 trash pulls, 42 court appearances, rounds out what we did in 2021. I'm going to turn it over to Sean, but I will tell you that we continue, at least Sean has represented to me in what I believe in. We continue to partnership with the municipalities. We continue to work to get other municipalities to join our effort, to join your effort, to join Mechanicsburg's effort, and join East Pennsboro, because somebody has to do it. I believe we have that commitment, not only through Dan, but through Sean. And I believe even though as we work through asset forfeiture and we attempt to reimburse as much as we can in any given year, we're always open to give back. And I give you one example, and I know Leon's sitting in back. We paid for one of the Lower Allen Township officers to take a Cellbrite training. We didn't hesitate. It's an effective tool that the department can utilize to access into cell phones. We purchased a Cellbrite at $10,000 plus additional fees, so total around $14,000, and we're allowing Lower Allen to piggyback on that. So instead of you incurring that cost to allow your officers to utilize that investigative tech tool, you're gonna piggyback with us. So we're taking we're chipping away. I know it's never enough, but we are trying to chip away and show how much appreciation we have for your allowing us to have Troy work with us on a full-time basis. If you don't have any questions, I'm going to allow the District Attorney, Sean McCormick, to speak.
Could I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
2 questions. What's a trash pull?
Well, I would have loved to do this on executive session, but our officers actually, can we do that? Can I ask that at another time or answer that at another time?
Commissioner, I can answer that for you offline.
There you go.
Yeah.
It's an investigative tool. It's an investigative tool that we utilize. I just don't particularly comfortable publicizing
And my
it.
second question is, what's the source of the weapons? Are they stolen or are they purchased?
The majority of the weapons that we come across are purchased either through a straw purchase, and what I mean by that is it's purchased by somebody who legally can purchase the weapon and then they get their hands on it, or the weapon comes from a burglary or a theft from a residential area, and it makes it through the circuits of the criminal element and ultimately lands in the hands of who it doesn't belong to.
Thank you.
First of all, a comment. Thank you so much, Chief, for all the hard work that you're putting in. And I've been a supporter of the task force and having Lower Allen Township be a supporter of that, like we are from the beginning since I've been around here. I know it's tireless work, often through the wee hours of the night, doing this type of work. So thank you and everybody that's involved. One thing last year when we talked on Zoom, it's kind of startling to me. You talked about the amount of work that's done by the county task force in Lower Allen Township. Is that still the case? Are those numbers still what they are? I mean, that was pretty high as a percentage from around the county. How much is done right here in Lower Allen Township? Can you just talk about that briefly?
That is true. And I have the philosophy that we're a county task force, so our services can be utilized throughout the county. But our primary focus is when a township or municipality gives us an officer, they come first. So when you have Troy as a full-time, he then brings the utilization of the county task force. Most of our numbers in the county are coming from Lower Allen, Upper Allen, Mechanicsburg, East Pennsboro. And I can't tell you what order it is, but those are the main municipalities where on a daily basis we have our surveillance hours, our trash pulls, our search warrants, and our drug buys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Commissioners, any other questions for Chief? Okay.
I'm gonna pull you back up, but I'll let the DA speak first, then I'll ask my questions.
Well, welcome, by the way, and
Yes,
congratulations.
thank you. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Sean McCormack. I took over for Skip Ebert. Skip retired halfway through his term, and I have the pleasure of now being district attorney here in Cumberland County. And I want to also thank you for having me here tonight. This is my first official venture outside of the courthouse in an official capacity. So it's a pleasure being here tonight. I don't want to take up a lot of your time. I do want to, on the plus side of things, make a presentation here tonight for a check for $25,000 back to the township for the officers that you had and the support that you have given the task force. Some of the money that Kenny has talked about, the forfeiture money, and about getting control over that, this is a result of that and our ability to contribute to the officer that does such good work. Troy does a great job for the task force. The term war on drugs has kind of become this term that people don't like to use anymore, and it's kind of fallen out of favor. But certainly some of our methods and the way that we prosecute cases have changed over the years. But one thing that hasn't changed, and one thing that the reason why we need a drug task force is because the war being waged by drugs on our society is not waning. We may not like the term war on drugs, but we still need to be vigilant in our communities. And one of the things that I think is so good is that Lower Allen is at the forefront of that. You are vigilant. You recognize the issue. I've been, since becoming district attorney, I've made it a point of sitting through our different treatment courts that we have on the county level, because it's not always about arresting someone and throwing them in jail and throwing away the key. Maybe that's the way it was done in the old days, but that's not the way it's done anymore. If we have an opportunity to give someone an opportunity to pull themselves up from the addiction and all of those things that come with that, we're doing that through our drug treatment court and our overdose intervention court and some of the other courts that we have. And I sit there and I listen to the stories of the people that are going through those courts and the struggles that they have. And it doesn't just affect, I was watching today a case in court where the young man was there with his family, with his 2 young children. So it doesn't just affect the drug user. It affects across the board many others. And as the chief said, the worst case scenario is when you have the overdose and someone die. And to be able to prevent that is what this is all about. And again, I want to thank all of you here for the efforts that you have put forth in this fight. Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioners?
Thank you for the check.
Yes, thank you for that.
Who do I give it to?
Probably our accountant. He's happy to take it. And I'll say that's not the first check we've received in the last several years. We're happy and grateful for the money coming back in. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, and thank you for being here tonight. We appreciate the updates, certainly. As I think this board has recognized for several years the utility of participating in the task force, and task forces only work when you have buy-in from as many municipalities as you can. So we're glad to support and participate. We appreciate the money coming back to offset the cost we incur for the officer, but we're glad to do it because and these results speak volumes. You're making our community safer. We appreciate that. And I'm curious. I believe you mentioned 4 full-time officers. Is that correct?
I was including myself.
Including yourself. Okay. And what municipalities do the other 3 represent?
East Pennsboro, Mechanicsburg, and Lower Allen.
Okay. So where you spend the predominant amount of your time is in those municipalities that have provided officers.
Yes, but I would add that we have part-time officers, and after 25 years, and I think I spoke to this at length before, we've come to the point where part-time, we is not an acceptable utilization in drug investigations. So Silver Spring has a part-time officer that's very active with us. West Shore is active with us throughout the year. Lemoyne is active with us as a part-time officer here and there, depending on what the department's responsibilities are, as well as, I believe there's one other additional department. Upper Allen. Upper Allen actually has 2 officers on there. If you remember, originally when we formed under then 2 administrations ago, Upper Allen was the only individual full-time department that was participating. Upper Allen then had a change with their dynamics, and when we reorganized 3, 4, 5 years, I'm going on 5 years, they were not on a full-time status, they're on a part-time status.
Still nothing from Hampton?
Hampton, no. Hampton was included, as you recall, as a full-time department. In conversations, and I don't want to get ahead of myself with their municipality, it's always been my understanding is that when they have an officer that they believe is available to do drug investigations or is suited to do that they would revisit that at the table. But I have not had that negotiation with them in the last year.
Sure.
If I might add, one of the things that I've met with the Drug Task Force a number of times now since the beginning of January, and one of the things I've emphasized is my desire to build up, to increase other municipalities, to go to them, to actively seek their participation on a more full-time basis. So that is one of the priorities I've set for myself.
Excellent. Well, and I just asked because I know you guys need those resources to be successful. Dauphin County has a pretty successful drug task force, D.A. McCormick, as you know. I'd love to see that in Cumberland County. I know you need the resources to do it. That's why we're behind you 100%. We're proud to keep supporting the program. I'm just asking for my own education on it.
And I do. I appreciate that. And I can't emphasize enough when you're dealing with multiple municipalities, each of them coming to the table with different departmental needs, with different operating needs, it becomes a juggernaut, for lack of better words, in terms of trying to get commitment. I believe, for the most part, that all the municipalities within the county would gladly give us an officer full-time. I can't speak to why they don't, but I've never got resistance in any investigation or any type of resistance with any municipality in the county in terms of law enforcement partnership. And I would submit to you that, like, for example, the state police, we have a full-time trooper that's assigned to our task force. So I failed to mention that. Now, while he's also responsible for other parts of within the state police in terms of investigations, they have committed an officer that's as a resource to us on a daily basis. And he spends the majority of his time, quite honestly, within this township. He was just here last week for an extended investigation right here at the Capital City Mall.
And we've heard from you guys, we get monthly reports that detail some of the investigations that go into our township. So we certainly appreciate, and we know we have an issue here in Lower Allen, and we're glad to have you. From a funding standpoint, how much is outside of personnel? Is your funding coming from the county?
No, sir. I don't have a budget within the county. The funding with Drug Task Force, which is consistent in the 6 counties that I worked in as a state trooper, generally comes from several sources. You have the Attorney General's account. The Attorney General of Pennsylvania, years ago when he established his task forces, put out money through legislation that goes to municipalities that form a local drug task force. They determine how much money in terms of quote-unquote buy money, operating expense, educational expense, equipment expense each year. So we get a portion of money from each quarter from the Attorney General's office. Then we have our asset forfeiture account. And the asset forfeiture account is exactly where that check came from this evening. But we can't budget on that because we can't, from a day-to-day basis, determine what's in that account as it goes through. Just because we seize $100,000, for example, this evening, we may ever, outside of our escrow account, we may never be able to utilize that money for a year or two as it works its way through the court. So I would submit to you that when you look at our asset forfeiture account, I think it's robust. But it's escrow robust. It's not in the pocket robust. Sure. And then the only other form of funding that we get would be from federal funding or through asset forfeiture sharing with the federal government. But that's probably an area of about 10,000 over the last 4 years. So it's not a significant amount of money that allows us to operate. And I know I'm going a little long here, but I have to work within paying the overtime of the part-time officers, paying the overtime of the full-time officers, vehicle maintenance, vehicle purchases. We have drug purchases. We have equipment purchases, training purchases. And I don't have a fixture each year where I can say, here's the amount of money I have to work within. It's like throwing darts at a dartboard. It changes each year for me. Hence, that's what happens when we look at how we're going to reimburse municipalities. We look at what our operating expense is. Could we give each municipality, say, an extra $10,000? Sure. And that could very well happen like it did last year in July. But currently, as we sit here, we didn't want to shortchange ourselves until we see other stuff come down through the pipeline. I hope that makes sense.
Sure. And last question, would additional funding from the state be useful to your efforts? If there were other avenues to pursue funding, would that be useful for your efforts?
We're sufficient in the area of our drug purchases and our day-to-day operating expenses. Where that would come into play is for our equipment utilization. We have our cars. Most of our cars sit at about 180,000 to 220,000 miles. They've been used for the last 5 or 6 years. They're well known in the communities, so it's difficult for us to even change out to do surveillance at houses because they drive by and they say, that's a car that you took from John Jones last year on a drug deal, and now we're driving it, because that's exactly what we're doing. We're driving forfeited cars. So the people in Mechanicsburg see their car drive down the street. We're driving it because we took it a year or two ago.
Got it. Well, thank you very much for the presentation. Thank you all for being here. We're proud to continue to support the operation, and we appreciate the good work you do for our township and our residents. Thank you.
Thank you. I can't thank you enough. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, any other questions? All right. Thanks, gentlemen, for coming. Thank you. At this point in our agenda, we are going to recess to executive session to discuss status on the Triple Crown versus Lower Allen Township matter. It's a legal matter. And I believe our
Yes.
Good evening. I'm reconvening this regular meeting of the Lower Allen Township Board of Commissioners of February 28th, 2022. We were in executive session to discuss a matter, a legal matter, and now we're back, and we're going to continue going down through the agenda. Next on our agenda is audience participation. This is where if you are here to talk about any item on our agenda, now's the time to let us know. When we get to that item on the agenda, we will call you up to the podium for conversation. Is there anybody here this evening to talk about anything on our agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Any commissioner, staff member, or anyone else in attendance who would like to have an item on the consent agenda removed for further discussion can request so now. Is there a request for the removal of any items on the consent agenda this evening?
Mr. President, I move for approval of the items on the consent agenda.
Second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Kutz, a second from Commissioner Black to approve the items on the consent agenda this evening. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Under your president, I have one item. We're looking at Resolution 2022-R-11 that was included in our packet this week. This is the hiring of Andrew R. Fullerton as a full-time maintenance specialist for the Facilities Maintenance and Public Works Department. Commissioners, if that'd be the time to maybe direct some of your questions, if you had any, to the Public Works Director or Township Manager or otherwise. Otherwise, I'd be seeking a motion to approve Resolution 2022-R11.
Mr. President, I move to approve Resolution 2022-R-11.
Second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Kutz, a second from Commissioner Black. Is there any discussion on this item or anybody have any questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Next on our agenda, any business pertinent to the township. This is where if you have anything other than items that are on our agenda, if you would like to come up to the podium and discuss them, we limit the discussions to about 15 minutes. Is there anyone here this evening to discuss anything or any business pertinent to Lower Allen Township? Seeing none, we'll move on to our township manager.
Thank you, Mr. President. At your places tonight, you found a printout as well as a ledger-size copy of our spreadsheet that we had received from Solar Resource Energy. I was asked to provide some additional information on the solar program. We can run through that fairly quickly, and if you need me to, I can go through the spreadsheet, and I can actually go and pull it up on the screen as well. Some of the questions, and I attached to the informational sheet, is the result of a couple of telephone interviews I had with, one of them was the Central Columbia School District, and the other one was Masonic Villages down in Elizabethtown, both of whom did or are doing solar projects with solar renewable energy. I asked them pointed questions about their experience with SRE, and we'll get down through those too. Central Columbia, they're having theirs just installed this year. I asked them their reasons for choosing solar or wanting to go with solar, and they said a school board member pushed solar to save on electricity, of course. The school district also received a grant, and they also received the PP&L rebate, which is what we are eligible for. And that made the project more attractive to them. The superintendent actually told me he's not sure they would have done solar if it wasn't for the availability of the grant and the PP&L rebate. We don't have a grant, but we do have the ARPA funds this year, which we can use. We've also got a substantial amount of money in our capital fund that came from the sale of the cell tower leases. I asked him what their factors he considered in choosing to work with SRE. said it was the educational information provided by SRE, plus they said that they would develop a curriculum for students on sustainable energy sources, and they were at a very high comfort level with SRE's knowledge and professionalism. They did get another proposal. The proposals were very similar. They felt more comfortable with SRE for one reason is the other company was only offering half of the grant opportunity that they were able to get through SRE. They were able to take advantage of the PP&L rebate that we also have access to at the moment. And their installation is mostly ground mount, but they are putting some solar panels on the new high school roof. And after the initial 5-year lease period, they will be purchasing it, the system from SRE, which is also the proposal that we looked at for Lower Allen Township. Under Masonic Village, spoke to Joe Murphy, who is actually the retired CEO. They've had 2 installations with SRE. The first one was in 2011. It was around about the same size as the one we're doing, about 1 megawatt. Ours is 1.08, I think. They were so happy with and I'll get into the reasons why in a minute. They were so happy with it, they did another one in 2018, which is twice as big. They're all ground mount. They have a big field out there, a farmer's field that they own, which they put their ground mounted solar panels in. I asked them what factors they considered in choosing to implement a solar program. Number one was generation of revenue streams and expense reductions, because Masonic Homes does have a number of indigent residents who can't pay what the going rate is, and so they're always looking for ways to reduce expenses and have additional revenue sources. Their second reason was to stabilize the open market fluctuations that electricity seems to have every once in a while. Asked them what their factors were in choosing to work with SRE. They said that at the time they started off back in 2011, they had looked at a couple of different companies. They met with Doug Berry, that was Seth's father. The projections that SRE gave them matched the finance director and the engineer's estimates. So they were kind of impressed that SRE wasn't trying to sell them pie in the sky, that the numbers they were giving them were actually, close to being accurate as an estimate can be. He said the Building and Grounds Committee did review other companies. He didn't know who they were or how deeply they got into it. I asked him if their electricity savings and energy credits have generally been in line with SRE's proposal, and he said they have. In fact, the success of the first project in 2011 drove the second project in 2018. I asked if they purchased the system after 5 years. He thought it was after 10 years, but it was he had retired before that happened, so he doesn't know who they financed it with or how they financed it. And I asked him if he would do business with the company again. He said yes, evidenced by the fact that they did a second project with them. Now, on the cover sheet, I go into some of the financial benefits that would make this deal a little more attractive. The first one is the Act 129, PP&L solar rebate. The rebate for our project is estimated to be $300,000. Now, there is some discussion on whether the rebate goes to us or goes to them. We talked with them earlier on about this and decided that it would be best for them to take the rebate and thereby lowering, and on the spreadsheet that I gave you, there's column G, which is our contract service payments, and column J, which is operations and maintenance. By then taking the rebate, both of those columns are lower. So our payments to them are lower by them using the PP&L rebate. There's also a federal tax program which goes to them. Right now, the tax credit is 26%. It's scheduled to step down to 22% in 2023. What that means to us is if we chose to do something in 2023, the amount that we would be paying SRE or whatever contractor we would be using for operations and maintenance and the contract service would go up. Because, again, you can read, they have a return that they're looking for as an investor, and if they're going to get less money from the federal credit, they're going to be looking at more money from the customer. And then there's the solar renewable energy certificates, which is the SRECs that are listed in column D, that those credits do go to us. So again, our cash inflows are due to, number one, the SREC credits, or the certificates, and number two, the savings in electricity. Again, if you look at those in column F, that's a combination of the credits and the savings in electricity. So if you want to, you can look at them in year by year, but if you want to jump all the way down to the bottom of the 40-year period, it's $5.3 million is what we get in. If you jump over to item K, column K, that's the total outflows. What that is principal, interest, and ongoing maintenance costs. That's $2.7 million, resulting in savings over the 40-year period of $2.535 million. I know there's some discussion about, well, you know, how do we know that this 40 years from now, technology is going to change? I believe that's true, and I think technology is only getting better. Solar will always be around because we always have the sun, and the technology for harvesting it is going to get better. And whatever technology is present will be incorporated into our solar system. So I'm sure that's not all the information that you all are looking for, so I'd be happy to answer.
Yeah, you certainly gave us a lot, and appreciate the extra effort that you put into it 2 weeks ago. So to remind anyone who might be wondering why we're having this discussion, this came up, and we kind of agreed to go back, bring our own questions independently to the management and perhaps the vendor through the management, and that we would talk about this again tonight. And so that's where we're at. So I appreciate, Tom, you putting this together, as much information as you can. At this point, what I think we should do is just open it up to the commissioners for any comments or questions, or to open up any discussion on this. Now's a good time to talk about it. You know, I'll start then with my thought on this is overall, I believe, as I understand the numbers in the spreadsheet, I think it looks like an amazing opportunity. And if I'm reading this correctly and I understand it correctly, to immediately, when I say immediately, in year one of the model, to save money and have a net positive savings for the township. And then from there forward, it seems to me that cumulatively over the course of 40 years, with the exception of independently a couple of years, or I think 1 year where it goes into the red, cumulatively we stay in the black. How we guarantee that, I don't know how that's possible with something that many of us don't understand. And I'm not so sure that the solar companies can do that now. And I'll just say that one of my hesitations is, I have a hesitation on not acting, and I have a hesitation on acting on it. One of my hesitations for acting on it is this idea that the equipment and everything would go up. Sometimes we see, as technology gets better, especially with electronic devices, the cost of them sometimes go down. My hesitation for not doing it as soon as we probably could or feel comfortable doing it, I'm not assuming that we're suggesting we should just jump on this, is my hesitation for not doing it soon with seeing this savings is that I believe that these type of programs with the rebates and the credits that are offered now as the demand goes up for solar, that, those things are going to diminish, and perhaps the cost of the service, maybe not the equipment, but perhaps the cost of the service, at least in my opinion, would go up significantly once demand starts to crank, so to speak, with regard to how many municipalities or commercial businesses or even residential businesses or residential, the consumers jumping on these type of programs. So that's where I'm at. I'm torn, to be honest with you, on it. So, anybody else?
Tom, have you looked at other companies?
I have not yet. I was waiting for that direction from the board. That's because that's going to put, one of the things that I put on there was about the PP&L credit. Seeking additional proposals is going to set this back probably another 30 to 60 days. We don't know how long the PP&L credit is going to be available. It is a finite pot of money. Once PP&L has awarded that, it's gone. So it's not an ongoing program. It could be in 2 months. It could be in 2 years. Nobody knows. It all depends on how many entities jump on something like this. And so to answer your question, no, I have not sought additional proposals from other companies yet. The information that I got from talking to these other individuals are that the proposals that they've sought and compared, solar renewable energy won. They came out the best, or they were all very similar. And I can understand that because SREC, the SREC is what it is. It's a state program. It's not going to vary between solar companies. The savings on electricity is going to be what it is. You're going to generate electricity and you're going to save money over what you're currently paying. And it doesn't really matter which company puts up your solar panels. The big difference is going to be in the ongoing maintenance costs. Can somebody come in and offer, a lower rate for the ongoing annual maintenance? I don't know the answer to that. What I got from the folks I talked to was no. They were very comfortable with solar renewable energy. So that's why I have not sought additional proposals at this time.
But you did, the other variable is it a good contractor? And you didn't get any complaints about SRE, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, the companies, in fact, not only did I talk to Central Columbia School District and Masonic Homes, but I had also talked to Dave Kratzer, the former manager of Susquehanna Township, about his experience with them, and they all gave very good reviews of working with SRE.
Are the other commissioners comfortable with this?
Mr. President,
Yeah. Commissioner Nagy?
I mean, I'll be honest, obviously I'm a little on the newer side here, but this is a large expenditure, a large amount of, of money and a large long-term project. I would certainly feel more comfortable with at least some sort of a comparing proposal.
I'm fine with that.
Fine with the proposal?
I'm fine with seeing how quickly we can get another proposal here. And I mean, if time is an issue, we can just come back in 2 weeks and we can just see what the manager's able to come up with.
Okay. I don't mean to steal the thunder, Tom. This is under you tonight, but I guess the question I have, and as I've been thinking about it, is, in Rick Grove, I guess we can refer to or count on you, I guess, to give us some comfort here. I'm reading the numbers correctly. If I'm reading them correctly, I'm seeing that, for lack of a better term, is a no-brainer. like financially, it just seems like this will really, really work out well for the township in this model. And that's not necessarily this company and jumping on such a big thing right away without, seeking out other quotes. I totally get that. I'm talking about in general with this type of model, whether to do a solar project or not and do nothing. Am I missing something, or is there, am I missing something? It seems to me like there's just this huge, I'm going to say windfall. It seems like we're just almost earning money every year and cumulatively staying in the black for a long time.
I can tell you that staff has looked at this in great detail. We've looked at the brand of solar panel. We've looked at the guarantees, the degradation rate, if you remember it decreases in how much it can generate every year. That is guaranteed. The workmanship and it is all guaranteed by the company. And more importantly than that, it's independently guaranteed by a separate insurance policy that they have through a completely separate insurance company that specializes in that very type of product out of Germany. So as far as reducing the risk, I'm convinced that the risk is reduced as far as it can go. Of course, there's always risk. In my opinion, I would take it. The numbers do seem logical, they seem reasonable, and we did comparisons to other projects, information you can find on the website that comes from the federal government as far as what you can expect. It all fell into place. So at least I'm comfortable.
You're talking in general solar power.
I'm talking about, yes, I'm talking about the credibility of the company, the quality of the product they're proposing, the quality of the workmanship, the financing in the background that covers things if something goes wrong, the history of such projects historically. We don't know the future. I mean, something like nuclear fission, which I've been hearing about all my life, but if it ever does happen, electric's going to be pretty cheap. So I think the risk is as low as can possibly be for a project like this.
Okay. Thank you.
In talking about the expense, annually, we actually are in the black. Annually, there's no expense. There's an expenditure, but the cash inflows greatly outweigh the expenditure. So it's not an annual expense. And as far as the initial outlay of $500,000, we have $640,000 roughly sitting in our capital fund from the sale of the cell tower leases that was being held for specifically this type of project, something that we could do that would be impactful. And it's, in my opinion, this is it. And I'm recommending that we do it. To me, there's no reason to wait. The only thing waiting could possibly get us is loss of the PP&L credit.
Right. Just back to the $500,000 real quick. Mm-hmm. It's my understanding that without putting that down, of course, our numbers are less coming in, but we'd still be in the black, right? If we didn't outlay $500,000.
That's right. If we didn't have that $500,000 outlay, we would be looking at roughly $55,000 income, we'll call it that, in the first year.
Right. Okay. So now let's go to the idea of doing our due diligence and feeling comfortable about whether or not we should get other proposals. Because and I'm not speaking for anybody or everybody at all. For me, I can tell you, I think I trust the model, and I think it seems almost like a no-brainer that we make money on this. It seems like for a very long time, and the risk seems to be low at this point. So that doesn't seem the issue. The idea of not getting a quote or getting a second or bringing in a second quote potentially, Tom, I mean, how much of a task is that for you to do? Just if we were to have something to cross-check on, and is that really going to make a difference of 60 days? And you know,
Well,
and do we
okay.
jeopardize much here?
I have to write a proposal, first of all, and it's got to include technical specifications, which is going to take me a while to pull together because, again, I'm not a technician. And that's also assuming that I have nothing else to do. So working it around my other duties, I'm thinking it's going to be weeks before I can get something out, mailed to people. And then you got to give them time to respond. And you got to open up the proposals and read through them and everything like that. So 60 days is not unusual. It will probably take us 2 months to get and review other proposals to where we're actually sitting and talking about it in a public meeting. And I can review the reasons we didn't do that in the first place. Was number one, we're not purchasing, we're leasing for 5 years. There's no guarantee that we will buy it in 5 years if conditions change. So there's no section of the First Class Township Code which is, requires you to get bids for leasing. Number two, it's an electrical system that we are interacting with PP&L on, and that is an exemption under purchasing. And number three, SRE is a CoStar's listed company. So
Are they?
Yeah, they are.
Okay.
So I mean, there's no legal reason for us to go out and get additional quotes. You may feel better with them, being able to compare across different companies. The only thing that's going to cost you is time and the possible loss of the PP&L credits, because again, it's a finite sum of money. We don't know when it's going to run out. I don't know that a whole bunch of entities are going to be lining up over the next 2 months to jump on solar programs, but I don't know that.
But what you're telling us, Tom, is that if we delay 2 weeks till we meet again, we're not going to have any more information.
I won't have anything for you in 2 weeks. No. Best I can do is in 2 weeks, I can have a list of companies that'll give us proposals, but we're not going to have proposals from them.
And he wants this direction tonight, is what I'm sure you're looking for tonight. He wants direction to go out and get proposals, or to move on this, or do nothing.
Well, then I would make a motion that we move ahead with SRE and move this project.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Commissioner Black, and I have a second from Commissioner Kutz. Is there any discussion or any further comments?
Mr. President, one item. The capital funds, Tom, what else would they be used for if not this?
We have nothing identified right now that we would use it for. We did consider briefly using it to purchase our street lighting system until we found out that PP&L ceased that program and they won't sell them now. They won't sell the street lighting systems.
What else would it be able to use for 3-5 years from now? Are there any, I know we have other projects down the line, are any of those eligible for these funds?
Oh, we can, this money we can use for anything we like. I don't know that we're going to come up with a project that's going to pay us back more than we're going to spend, though. I mean, you can use it to build something.
So I'm specifically thinking about the fire apparatus. If we don't do this and we use those funds for that, does that change the finance director's opinion on? Of course, I'm a no on any tax increase that would come down the line, but I know that idea had been floated. Would using these funds ensure that proposed increase would never happen if we save these and use it on the fire apparatus?
The fire apparatus, as long as it comes along at no more than the projected price at no earlier than the projected time, we've already done a tax increase to cover that. So if everything works out right there, you're already covered.
So the tax increase that, of course, was passed before I came on the board would cover that.
Yes.
Okay.
If everything comes out as, because I mean, I don't know anything about prices or when it's needed. So I was given that information. As long as that information comes out correct, we're fine.
Okay. Thank you.
Let me
Commissioner
ask-
Nagy?
Thank you, Mr. President. I guess let me ask this question, and it's a little rhetorical, but are we in that much of a hurry for this project that we're willing to risk not seeing anything to compare against this? And to me, I don't feel compelled to be that much of a hurry on this.
So maybe to Commissioner Nagy's point, for the manager, do we know how much PP&L has in this fund?
No.
So there's no way of knowing if they have a surplus that, okay.
Commissioners, any other questions or any more discussion on this matter? We have a motion and a second sitting on the floor right now.
I think you should call for the vote.
Okay, I will call for the question. All those in favor of moving forward with the proposal that we have for SRE, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Okay, motion carries 3-1. Thanks, commissioners and staff, for the very healthy discussion.
Commissioners, I understand this is a very difficult decision, and there's a lot of it's intricate. And staff, we feel pretty confident in what we've presented you, and we think, I can tell you, I think it's a good move, both just for the money saving aspect of it, and also for the sustainability using sustainable resources. So, thank you.
Yep. Yep, we'll move on. Is that all you have tonight, Tom?
That's all I have, yes.
Okay. Commissioner reports, before we go, start with the commissioner reports. We are going into executive session. We'll be recessing to executive session with the possibility of coming out and taking action.
Correct.
Okay. So therefore, we'll start this evening with Rebecca.
Nothing tonight, thank you.
John?
As your liaison to the Yellow Breeches Watershed Association, I'm sorry to report that for the third year in a row, we will not be doing Trout Day. 2 years of COVID. This year, there is no bridge connecting. The bridge is still under reconstruction. They're making good progress, but it was way behind original schedule of end of 2021. Now it's May of 2022. Trout Day is the first Saturday in April. So we've already talked to Suez, and just logistically, we can't do it with no parking lot on the Lower Allen side, no bridge to cross the creek. So maybe next year.
Thank you. Rick?
Nothing tonight, thanks.
Renee, anything for us? Thanks again for all your hard work. I enjoy reading through the minutes. They're well done. Thank you. Aaron?
I put in your packets, we just had an email from DCD that let us know that our Lower Allen Commons project was selected for a local government award. So we don't have a whole lot of details, but we did win an award.
I saw that. Congratulations. I look forward to that presentation.
If I can add, this is Lower Allen's 4th Excellence in Government Award. So, congratulations to Aaron.
Congratulations. Thank you. Dave? I have nothing tonight. Steve?
Not till executive session, thanks.
Okay. Any other captains? Nothing? Okay. We'll start with Commissioner Black tonight.
Leon, I thought you did an excellent job on the Lower Allen Township Police Department annual report. Thank you. And I'd like to express my personal sadness at the loss of my fellow commissioner who filled the chair next to me for quite a while. And my thoughts and prayers are with her family. That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Nagy?
Thank you. A little different report than I initially anticipated. I do want to explain myself for the vote. I appreciate all the work that you guys did. I am in support of the project. I think it was a great idea, a great way to use what we have, use our resources. For me, it was just strictly a comfort measure, just having something to compare. Obviously, I'm new and just wanted that to know I was making the right decision with, as the term goes, other people's money, the taxpayers' money. So please don't think it was anything regarding the project, or I appreciate all the work, and actually some of your information, Rick, there too, also gave me more confidence in it. But that being said, to the more fun stuff, I attended my first recreation board meeting and got to meet that group, as well as with Miss Davis and Miss Dowden. Really looking forward to working with them, developing some new ideas, and hopefully re-energizing some folks to come out in the township. With that, I want to thank Miss Davis and Miss Trone for their immense amount of time this past week since the last meeting to go through their department, take me on a tour of different things. As the outsider who's now looking in, would like to tell, I wish the public were here, but so they could see the impressive work going on behind the scenes. It also makes me realize to the 3 public safety captains out there, and Director Hall also have spent quite a bit of time with me and going over everything, and I appreciate all the time out of your day for all of you guys. And that leads me to Captain Crone. I had the honor to go to the Lisbon Fire Banquet this weekend, and I'm sure the other commissioners will expand on that, but Captain Crone gave one heck of a speech this weekend on leadership, and it struck a chord, and I think we might have to convince him to give it for everyone to hear. It was an inspiring speech, so I wanted to just point that out for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Kutz?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm deeply saddened at the loss of our colleague, Commissioner Holtzman. Commissioner Holtzman was a formidable commissioner and one who cared deeply for this township, for its residents, and always looked out for those residents that she was so privileged and excited to serve, including her fierce advocacy for the public safety disciplines, and she will be very missed. Mr. President, in the last several weeks, I've had the opportunity to represent our township in a couple of capacities. It was my privilege to attend the Lisbon Fire Banquet this weekend with the other commissioners here as well. It was a very enjoyable time, and want to congratulate Greg Black on running an outstanding organization out there and being named their Firefighter of the Year. It was an exceptional program, and I'm proud to support our public safety disciplines, including our fire companies. We're blessed to have such outstanding companies with both Lower Allen and Lisbon, and was very pleased to be in attendance and support Lisbon Fire. In addition, Mr. President, I was pleased to represent Lower Allen Township as a delegate to the Capital Region Council of Governments. We had a productive meeting at Hampton Township this month where we talked about a couple of public safety items that could be beneficial to all municipalities that participate, as well as regional efforts to stop tolling on the I-83 South Bridge. So some impressive collaboration that I think is the start to some very good conversations with so many municipalities there. It truly is my privilege to serve as delegate for Lower Allen Township. I'm proud to serve in that capacity, as well as on the Cumberland County Municipal Advisory Board, so that we can truly work collaboratively with our other municipalities in the county towards achieving common goals. Mr. President, thank you, and that's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner. I started the meeting out with expressing a heartfelt sadness that I'm sure we all share in the last couple of days this evening. Passing of Commissioner Holtzman, how sad. Commissioner Holtzman was the very first commissioner when I was a commissioner-elect in December of 2017 that I went to dinner with, of the first commissioner. I met with everybody at some point. We went to dinner. It was my wife, Vicki, Carolyn, and our youngest daughter. We went to Texas Roadhouse. I remember it. And it was the first time I got to sit down with her. And I knew right away she had a passion for this place and for serving. And as everybody knows, she never let up on that passion. So she will be missed. She will be missed around here for sure. And I would just keep her family in our prayers if we can. I attended the Planning Commission meeting this month as a liaison along with Vice President Black. We attended together, and we appreciate the incoming updates now and the follow-up updates. I think communication's king. I've been saying that for 5 years now, and I know that's shared with everybody. And appreciate that, Aaron. I just love that step that you've taken to do that for us. And I know that communication being spread throughout the Planning Commission and the staff and the commissioners is just going to be really good moving forward. So thank you. And I look forward to going to all the Planning Commission meetings, hopefully with Commissioner Black there as well. I also attended the Lisbon Fire Company banquet, and it was nice to be there to celebrate the year they had. They had a really good year. And all the commissioners were there, of course, except for Commissioner Holtzman. And I think we all had reason to celebrate. Captain Crone, again, you did do a fantastic job with that. I particularly love all the humor at the beginning of the speech, and I hope if you do share that here, like Commissioner Nagy suggested at some point, that you just keep it exactly the way it was. But the serious part really hit home, so thank you. It really meant a lot to hear that. And I also look forward, and I'm sure we'll be seeing all the familiar faces there from here as well, for the Lower Allen Fire Banquet coming up. So we look forward to celebrating their year with them as well. And I congratulate your son, Greg Black, and Ed made a fantastic presentation to his son for being firefighter of the year, and I think it brought tears to a lot of people's eyes. Ed.
Including Dad's.
Yeah, well, we know yours, but we were getting choked up. I have a plaque that was presented to all of us from the Lisbon Fire Company at the banquet, and I'm going to just give it to management to hang where you hang plaques. But it's a Community Service Award presented to Lower Allen Township in appreciation of your continued generous support and dedicated service to our community and the Lisbon Community Fire Company in 2021. So I present this on behalf of it was presented to the Board of Commissioners and Lower Allen Township in general. So I'll just give this, if you can pass this down to the manager. I thought that was very nice and kind of the Lisbon Fire Company to give us that recognition. And then finally tonight, I'll just speak to Commissioner Nagy. I can't tell you how much I appreciate the decision you made tonight. I remember being in that chair, and perhaps sometimes I wish I would have dissented early on some things, but I appreciate your dissent, and I hope that you know that we all would really, we want to vote on things when we're comfortable. And you should know, from my perspective, that if we have a good discussion on things, and I think all four of us know that we've talked about this issue. Anytime we have a good, hearty discussion on things, both in public, and then we get a feeling from the public outside of these walls on issues, and we get that information in, and we feel strongly on something, I think the vote goes the way the vote goes, and it's representative of the people. So thank you for sharing your concerns. Having said that, we are going to recess to executive session, and we'll be back potentially to take action Okay. Good evening. Reconvening the Lower Allen Township Board of Commissioners regular meeting. We have come out of executive session. We have no need to take any action at this time.